This is Gemara Pesachim Daf Kov. Today's shir should be a special schos for Shleim of Chaim using worship and Esther. Good to be Nikir man Ben Vego Chaim and Sarj Shalom Stephen Nasi Til Sar Bas Kanendel. Ita Basiam Bas Chaisa Yusol Ben Mendel as a person with the Shavle Shema Bas Navi Shavi or Shirchana Valdav Nita Riva Shmuel Ben Tila Daniel Ben Chan Ritel Milk Chaya Bas Min Librach Bas Avia Musa Din Edel Bas Shina Mendel Simcha Tovia Bas Abigail Fasha Siben Vega Tvair Michel Siperna Satele Huva Besay Shar Khadi Israel Wells as Chosaziva Miriam Bas Esther Shendel and Etel Leah Bas Ita. We pick it up in the top of Daf Sadites, Daf Kof Amid Aleph. We're in the middle of a discussion, middle of two different answers between Rav Huna and Rav Papa. Yesterday we concluded on the top of the Gemara over here where the Gemara said that Elam Achavarta Kid Rav Huna, the Gemara had a question, and therefore the Gemara concluded that we must go with the answer of Rav Huna. What was the answer of Rav Huna? Let's give a quick recap. We had a din of the Mishnah. It said in the Mishnah that an Erev Pesach, Samuch LeMincha, you're not allowed to eat. The Gemara was bothered. Why does it say specifically Erev Pesach? It's not a din only in Erev Pesach. It's every Erev Shabbos and every Erev Yontif. Like many of us that just had Purim on a Friday, it was the same din. You're not allowed to eat on that Friday. Like we mentioned yesterday, Purim could have different dinim, because it's Tzarech Mitzvah is one of the Heterim. But again, you're not allowed to eat for the same reason that you want to go into Shabbos, and you want to go into Yontif, and you want to go into Pesach with an appetite. So that was the problem with the Mishnah. Why does it make it sound specifically like Erev Pesach? So that we answered, Rav Huna was the first answer, which is the answer that we said yesterday is correct. As Rav Huna said, we're going with the opinion of Rav Yosi. Rav Yosi disagrees with everything we just said. Rav Yosi does not hold there's a din on every Erev Shabbos and every Erev Yontif that you have to not eat going to Shabbos and Yontif to have an appetite. Rav Yosi says in every Erev Shabbos, let eat all the way out Shechashecha until it gets dark. But so therefore, our Mishnah is teaching us a special din by Erev Pesach. That was Rav Huna's answer, which is what we said yesterday is the correct answer. The answer that we said is no longer correct was Rav Papa. The Rav Papa tried to answer that the difference is between Samuch and on Erev Pesach, it's even Samuch is going to be forbidden that extra half hour. So again, we concluded that Rav Huna, which one last time was the answer that we're going with the opinion of Rav Yosi, who generally allows you to eat all the way to nighttime. Here on Pesach, you're not. Says the Gemara 5 lines down, Daf Kufam and Aleph, Rav Huna minicha, is that true? Does it fit with Rav Huna? V'amar Rav Yirmiyam, Rav Yechim, V'dimar Amar Rav Avuam, Rav Yisi Bar Chanina. Ha'alocha ki Rav Yehuda be'erev Pesach. We paskin like Rav Yehuda on Erev Pesach. V'alocha ki Rav Yosi Erev Shabbos. So they said the following statement: we pass like Rav Yehuda on a regular Erev Pesach. Again, Rav Yehuda was the one who argued with Rav Yosi. Rav Yehuda was one that said that the din applies all the way. The din applies to every Erev Shabbos. So we're passing on Erev Pesach like Rav Yehuda, and on Erev Shabbos like Rav Yosi, they can eat all the way into the dark time. So what says the Gemara? What do we see for the fact that there's Memra? Rav Yirmiyah, Rav Yechim, Rav Avuah, Rav Yisrael Chanina, all these people are saying over that we paskin like by Erev Pesach, like Rav Yehuda. But on Erev Shabbos, Rav Yosi, halacha ki Rav Yehuda b'Erev Pesach. The fact that it says halacha like Rav Yehuda on Erev Pesach, michlal, tipal Rav Yosi b'tervayu. It sounds like Rav Yosi argues. It sounds like we have two cases. We have Shabbos, Yontif versus Pesach. It sounds like there's a machlokes in all of them, Rav Yosi, Rav Yehuda. So therefore they had to come and teach me that on every Erev Shabbos and every Erev Yontif, then Rabbi like Rav Yosi, and on Erev Pesach we're passing like Rav Yehuda. But according to the answer of Rav Huna, there's no machlokes by Erev Pesach, because in Erev Pesach Rav Yosi admits that you have to stop eating. So it doesn't work. Answers the Gemara Loi. No, that's not the correct way of learning that memra. Halacha mechlal depligi behavsaka. It's true, Rav Yosi does disagree, but he doesn't disagree with regard to when you're not allowed to eat anymore. Rather, Rav Yosi disagrees with regard to if you have to stop eating. If you started the meal, do you have to stop? The Tanya you've learned in the Raisa. Mafsik and l'shabasa is to be Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, let's say you started the meal and it's getting closer to Shabbos. You have to stop the meal. Rav Yosi Amar ein mafsikin. Rav Yosi says that's where Rav Yosi argues. Meaning, we just proved that there's a machlekes Rav Yosi and Rav Yehuda in all cases, which seemingly was a question of Rav Huna who said that on Erev Pesach. Rav Yosi does not disagree because he admits you have to stop. The Gemara is answering that no, there is a machlekes in all cases with regard to if you have to stop. If you had the meal and it went too late, you have to stop right now. Says the Gemara before we see a Rashi, Meiser of Shimon Gamliel, Rav Yehuda, Rav Yosi. Shei Mesubim ba'Akra, they were eating an Akra v'Kiddush le'Mayayim, and it got dark. It started getting close to Shabbos. Amar later Shbagler Rav Yasi. Shimi Gamliel said to Rav Yasi Berebi. Ritzoincha Nifzak. Should we stop the meal v'neichash adivri Rav Yehuda and be chayshish for the words of Rav Yehuda? Rav Yehuda was one that Chavirenu or Chaver that said you have to stop. Meaning they asked to Rav Yasi, who argues on Rav Yehuda. They asked Rav Yasi, should we stop and be suspectful for the other opinion? I know you, Rav Yasi, holds we're allowed to continue eating right now. It's Shabbos, it's Kiddush Hayom, the Shkia is coming, it's Lech Menshik, it's time to light the candles. So maybe we should stop eating? No, Rav Yasi holds you allowed to continue. But Rav Yehuda holds you have to stop. So he said, should we suspectful for the opinion of Rav Yehuda and stop? What happened? Amar Loi. So he responded, Livnei Rav Yehuda. Every other day you paskin like me, Rav Yasi, not Rav Yehuda. And now in front of me, in a normal scenario, when I'm not here, when someone comes to ask you a shayla, what do you answer? You paskin like Rav Yasi. You paskin like me, says Rav Yasi. Now I'm sitting right here at the table, and what do you want to say? You want to say Rav Yasi, should we paskin like Rav Yehuda? Rav Yasi says, a pasuk from Esther, we're actually recording this year on Yudal Adar, which is Purim for many of our listeners, almost a bit Purim for your Eretz Yisrael, the day that we all read the Megillah, what's Yad D'Shmaya. What pasuk does Rav Yasi quote? Hagam lichlish es amalka imi babayis. What, do you want to do something with me while the queen is in the house? Haman Achashverosh Esther. What, you're playing with, you want to do something with Esther? Well, I'm sitting right here. Hagam lichlish es amalka imi babayis. So Rav Yasi is borrowing this term to teach, to say, what, you want to argue on me in front of me? When it's not in front of me, you paskin like me. Now in front of me, you want to paskin not like me. Amar le, they responded, okay, we got the point. Then what? We shouldn't stop. We should continue the meal all the way into the night time. But Shema Yira Talmidim, v'yechvan ha'alach l'dayreis. Maybe the Talmidim are going to see, they're going to think that's the halacha. Amru, they responded, and that is the adi, the halacha that we're going with Rav Yasi, and therefore, that is the end of this story. We have a little bit of time, so let's just see a Rashi over here. First of all, Rashi, again, the top is Rashi, the bottom is Rashbam. In the question that we said, Allah b'chlal d'p'ligil avsaka, that explains Rashi in the first narrow line, Be'erev Pesach d'masha d'polig nami, Rav Yasi Be'erev Pesach l'avsaka hu d'polig. That was the crucial line. They're arguing only with regard to stopping. De'im hischalechol, af Be'erev Pesach. Let's say you started eating, which you shouldn't have done. Let's say, even if whether you should have done it or not is irrelevant, but you started a meal. You don't have to stop. Comes out very important. Rav Yasi says, are you allowed to start a meal? No. What if you started? You did the wrong thing. Do you have to stop now when it comes to Shabbos? There, Rav Yasi is going to argue and say you do not have to stop. And that's the chiddush of our Mishnah. And here we would be saying that Rav Yasi holds that you, yes, have to stop. That was the end of the story. Let's just see one Rashbam down here before we move on to the next Gemara. The Rashbam, I don't know, about 12 lines into the wide lines, Hagam Lichvleish, the Rashbam says Koloimar, which of course means it's not literal, like we said, it's a borrowed pasuk from Esther. In front of me, you're embarrassing me. Then we cannot do that. Let's see one more Rashbam for a moment before we move on. The next Rashbam says, don't stop the meal. And that's the psak halacha. Like our Mishnah, like Rav Yasi, you're not allowed to eat from 9 hours and onward. It's mutter like Rav Yasi, we did not get Erev Pesachim Bechlal Deshari Yom Tov V'Shari. And we learned in Erevin halacha Rav Yasi Mechaviroi Rav Yasi he allows you to eat on a regular Erev Shabbos and Erev Yom Tov Hedel Kamam Mishmaitin Damar Elahad Tani V'Shavin Shabbaschilin Eimas Iber Erev Shabbos Apolik Rav Yehuda. And we're not going to see the end of this Rashbam. And let's leave this and move to the next Gemara, which we pointed out yesterday that it's true that in every Erev Shabbos there's no Isser, but one should be Memayet, number one, in order to have an appetite going into Shabbos, and to be Kaveya a Suda, which is a larger Suda than he does during the week. That is the problem. Says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda. 4 lines from the bottom, Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Ein halacha. Like Rav Yehuda, like Rav Yasi. We don't baskin ni like Rav Yehuda nor like Rav Yasi. This regard to, you started a meal on Friday. You started a meal and now it's getting close. You look at your watch. It's getting to Shkia. What do you do right now? Kiddush alav hayom. So we just said a moment ago, it's a machlekes. Rav Yosi says, keep on eating straight into the nighttime. Don't do Kiddush. It's okay. Your meal's allowed to continue. Rav Yehuda said, no, you have to stop. To stop the meal. It's coming Shabbos. Says Rav Yehuda. That was Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, we do not paskin me like Rav Yosi nor Rav Yehuda. Elo. Another concept which many people are now familiar with after just going through a Friday Purim. Payres mapo mekadesh. Says Rav Yehuda, spread over a tablecloth on the table in middle of the meal, and boom, make Kiddush. Make Kiddush smack in the middle of the Suda. Because it's Shabbos right now. We have to mekadesh hayom. We have to sanctify the day of Shabbos. How do we do that? Via Kiddush. So it's getting closer to the day. What does Rav Yehuda say? You take a tablecloth, spread it over the whole table, cover over the hachala, cover over the mezainis, and go and make Kiddush. Says the Gemara, Aini, is that true? Just like you stop for Kiddush, moving along to Kofa Midbeis. Kach masikin la'avdallah. So too, we stop for Avdallah. So my mafsikin, what does it mean that we stop? Lav la'kiran shulchan. Does it not mean that we stop and we get rid of the table? Meaning, seemingly like the opinion of Rav Yehuda. What happens when it comes Shabbos? Stop. Close up shop, get rid of the table, and then start again for Shabbos. Doesn't sound like you do Peiris Mappa like we just said, to spread over a tablecloth. Answers the Gemara. And of course, when it says Akira Shulchan, this is going back to Bisman Chazal, which we're going to see many times, so we should point this out. Bisman Chazal, they used to eat on little tables. It wasn't necessarily a large table like we had. Everyone had individual tables. So that's what's going on over here. It is, let's get rid of that little table. Answers Gemara, it's not what it means, lemapa. It just means let's spread out the tablecloth over everything else and be payris mapa ume kadish. Rabba bar Ravuna kleda beirish kalusa. I see Taka Kaimayu. They brought the table in front of him to start the Suda. Payris mapa vikidesh. He spread over a tablecloth, and right then and there he started the meal. Tananami hachi, we bring a raya to this. She'in ma'viyin es ha'shulchan ella imkein kidesh. We only bring the shulchan, we only bring the table when it's time to start the Suda. V'mevi, and let's say they brought it too early, Payris Mabo, Mekadesh, we spread over a tablecloth again, and we make Kiddush. Which Rashi over here said that you don't bring the table unless you already made, unless you already made Kiddush and you're ready to start the meal. Says the Gemara, Tani Chada. We learned in one brayso, Shavin, everyone agrees, we don't begin. But Tani Idach Shavin, Shamaschilin. So it's a stira. Do we begin or not? And let's just take one moment, as it's these are nice short dafim. So let's take a moment to look at the Rashbam. The Rashbam says, Tani Chada Shavin. First word on the line, wide lines in Rashbam is Tani. Rav Yehuda and Rav Yosi de Pligi. Rav Yehuda and Rav Yosi, who said prior, they argued whether we stop the meal or not. Le'el, Bein Ba'achilas Erev Pesach, Shabbos Bein Be'mincha, Mincha L'mayla Bein Ba'avsaka. They all agreed, She'ein Maschilin Lecho Min HaMincha L'mayla. You cannot start. That's what the first brayso says. So Tani Chada again, ain't maschilin. And a different brayso says, no, you're allowed to be maschilin. Says the Gemara, Bish, Lamad the Tani, that should we learn, Shavin, she'ein maschilin, that it says you should not start the meal, Mashiach Zla Erev Pesach. Then what's it referring to? It's referring to Erev Pesach. Why? Because that's when both Rav Yehuda and Rav Yosi admit that you can't start. This is what we ended off yesterday, is what we started with today. That our Mishnah that says Arvei Pesachim could fit even with Rav Yosi. This was Rav Huna's answer. That even though Rav Yosi is normally allows you to eat all the way into Shabbos, but in Erev Pesach he requires you to stop. So says the Gemara, the brayso that says that both Rav Yehuda and Rav Yosi admit that you cannot start makes a lot of sense if it's talking about Erev Pesach. Elaho, Titani, the brayso that says Shavin Shamaschilin, the brayso that says that they both make you allowed to start a meal. Emas, when is that referring to? Name, if you're going to tell me about Erev Shabbos, I'm like Pligi. On Erev Shabbos, that is where Rav Yosi and Rav Yehuda argued. Rav Yehuda said you have to stop him in Chol Hamayil, and Rav Yosi says you'll have to eat all the way tonight. So where is there a scenario that they both agree that you're allowed to eat all the way in and you're allowed to start? Says the Gemara, Laikasha kan koidein tisha, kan la'achar tisha, which now we're learning more rules. Before the 9th hour, early on Friday, before Mincha Kitana or half hour before Mincha Kitana, then everyone agrees you're allowed to start the meal. When was the machlekes Rav Yehuda and Rav Yosi? That was after the 9th hour. That's when Rav Yosi said you're allowed to start. That's when Rav Yehuda said no, which also here we're seeing all the rules. Everyone heard that on Friday. When was the Purim Suda supposed to start? Lechatchila, you start in the morning. If you can't do it by the morning, you got to do it by the 10th hour. This is that 10th hour. Because everyone admits that you're allowed to start before the 10th hour. Says the Gemara, and that's the end of it. So again, let's just quickly review. We'll see a few more lines, but let's quickly review. The Rav Yehuda and Rav Yossi are coming out. They're not arguing with regard to Erev Pesach. They both admit you have to stop early. Rav Yossi allows you to go all the way to Shabbos. That's an Erev Shabbos. But everyone agrees before the 9th hour that is where you're going to be allowed to begin. And then the other case was that we spoke about was you have to stop. Rav Yossi says no. Rav Yehuda says yes. And then we said, then we pointed out that the psak halacha is neither to stop nor to continue, rather to be peiris mapo mekadesh, which is like a quasi stop, which is in the middle. You put over the tablecloth and you restart the day, and that's when you would make kiddush and start Shabbos Suda. And just to point out, the reason why in a Purim Suda this was a bit complicated was because you already had a hagafen. Over here it says peiris mapo mekadesh, which generally means take a cup of wine. But on a Erev, when Purim was an Erev Shabbos, if someone's in the middle of their Purim Suda, that means they already made a hagafen on their wine. So now, how could we pay your smap mikdash? You can't make kiddush. That's what you run into an issue. You have to make the kiddush without the hagafen, or you have to have someone else be yaitz to you, etc. Let's just start the next Gemara. It's going to begin a larger sugya. Let's just start. It says the Gemara, Oisam b'nei adam shekiddshu b'beis haKnesses, a minhag which still exists in certain shuls. They make kiddush in beis haKnesses. They make kiddush in shul Friday night. Amar Rav yidei yayin lo yatzu yidei kiddush yatzu. Rav says, what were you yaitz? You were yaitz your chiyuv of kiddush, not of wine. Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, as we move along to Kaval Amar Aleph, Af yidei kodesh lo yatzu. You're not yaitz kiddush. We're going to stop over here because we're going to have to go into this. This is going to take us all the way into Amud Aleph. There's new machlaikas with regards to the minhag, whether you make kiddush in shul and all the ramifications. We'll pick up from here in the next year.